Zoom on YouTube.
I'm sorry. I know this is very frustrating.
It is.
I know.
Okay, we can get on YouTube Live.
Okay. But you've got to shut down Zoom though, because you're echoing.
We can get on YouTube Live. Right, and why are we echoing?
But you've got to shut down Zoom though.
Shut down Zoom?
But I don't know how to get in contact with you on YouTube. There must be a separate app for that. Let me see if there's a YouTube streaming app. But I don't know how to get in contact with you on YouTube. There must be a separate app for that. Hold on, I'm going to get my glasses. But I don't know how to get in contact with you.
Let's see what my settings is.
I'm going to get my glasses.
Okay, playback speed, normal, subtitles. What is this? The quality, okay, I got it up high. Settings, subtitles off, options, font size. Who you calling? Don't call her, son. Don't call her. She ain't gonna answer. Don't call her. Don't call her. It's okay. Okay. I'm just trying to figure out where we getting all this feedback from.
Mm-hmm.
I told you she might need to cut her volume down.
Dr. Gigi, what's your volume on? I cut my volume down.
Okay, my volume is way down.
Yeah, mine too. Dr. Gigi, what's your volume on? I cut my volume down. Let me see what Zoom is saying.
Okay, my volume is way down.
Yeah, mine too. I cut my volume down. Let me see what Zoom is saying.
It might just be on here. It might just be a little behind. But that still doesn't mean that it might not be loud.
How to get feedback out of Zoom. How to get feedback out of Zoom. How to get feedback out of
Said maybe turn down the volume. Oh,
Right. So I got my volume. I got my volume all the way down too.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
All the way down too. I know what, no, but you can do. Yes, ma'am.
So Miss Williams is texting me and says that she can see us.
She can see us?
Yes. I'm asking her if she can hear us too. She's texting me and says that she can see us.
She can see us?
Yes. I'm asking her if she can hear us too. She says she can hear us and see us.
On YouTube.
Well, I'm finding out now. On YouTube.
Okay.
She can hear us and see us.
Okay. On YouTube.
Well, I'm finding out now. On YouTube. So here's a suggestion. You go ahead and introduce me. I will wait because there's a delay. and
Right.
then I will speak. And maybe turn down the volume. Yeah.
Okay. So I got to tell everybody now to go on. I got to tell everybody to go on to
YouTube.
all the way down to. Yes, ma'am. So.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. All the way down to. I know what. No, but yes, ma'am.
So Miss Williams is texting me and says that she can see us.
She can see us?
Yes. I'm asking her if she can hear us too. She says it sounds a little bit better.
Okay. She said we sound better?
Yes. She says she can hear us and see us.
On YouTube. Okay.
Well, I'm finding out.
So I'm gonna tell everybody jump over to YouTube. I'm gonna do.
Okay. So here's a suggestion.
God bless you, beloved. Of course,
Okay.
the challenges that we've been having.
I'm here as long as you need me.
So we're not gonna keep trying to get on Facebook Live. It just keeps buffering. It won't pull up. So you can jump over to my YouTube channel, go to DK Web Ministries, go to YouTube, pull that up, pull up YouTube, and we are now on there live. And once you get on that page, please let me know that you are there. Thank you so much for your patience. So jump over to, you can see me well because I'm on Facebook Live. Our doctor is not on Facebook. I just need everyone to go to YouTube, please. Please spread the word. Go to YouTube. We're on YouTube. Zoom would not do Facebook Live. So please post for me, tell everyone, go to YouTube Live, and we'll be on YouTube. See you there. Say we sound better? God bless you, beloved. Of course, the challenges that we've been having. So I'm gonna tell everybody YouTube. I'm on YouTube along with Zoom. Cut the volume. Okay, love. So, God bless you, beloved. Of course, the challenges that we've been having.
I'm here as long as you need me.
So we're not gonna keep trying to get on Facebook Live. It just keeps buffering. It won't pull up. So you can jump over to. All right. I've told everyone that we are going to YouTube Live. I've told everyone that we are going to YouTube Live. And we're giving them a few moments to get on YouTube Live. Okay. Please go to my YouTube page and see. And I need you to stay in so you can monitor. Tell me, do you see it?
That's on wrong.
Okay,
So how do I get to YouTube page?
let me see. That's you.
That's just
Okay.
YouTube,
Oh, I got YouTube on my phone. So
but
that's me. I got YouTube.
but I don't want to sign it to your YouTube. It's gonna be like on your page.
Right. Okay.
That's
Wait,
why I went to other YouTube.
that one right there. That's different. That's it. See, I'm on a different account. So this the one.
She said it's much better. Pastor Webb, she says it's much better.
Okay, my dear. Okay, it's much better.
There's no feedback now.
Okay, wonderful. That's wonderful.
I'm gonna turn off the light so that it's not.
Can't do it from your page, man. I'm telling you.
I'm here.
Okay, we're ready to go. We're up live. Welcome.
Fixing the lighting. Okay, are we ready to go? I think we're live.
I think we are. Well, let's see. It's not on red, so now I guess we're going to be live. Let's
We're
see.
all the way live, Pastor Webb, all the way.
We're all the way live. We're all the way live.
Yes, we are.
I didn't think we were all the way live.
Well, I think we're ready to go ahead.
Okay, it's telling me to skip ahead to the live broadcast. So I guess
Well,
it's,
Ms. Williams from the Rodham Institute can hear us fine.
okay, she can hear us fine.
Mhm.
Okay,
There's no feedback, there's no delay.
okay, well, let's go then. Let me skip ahead to,
Uh-oh, where's that feedback coming from?
let me skip ahead to. Oh, okay, so that's what it was. That's what it was. Oh, okay, so that's what it was. That's what it was.
So you need to turn off whatever it is that you just turned on.
Yes, ma'am. Let's see. Yes, ma'am. Let's see. Now it doesn't want to go away. You all pray for me here.
You on?
Okay.
It's hard to manage your workload, especially when your team doesn't know who's working on what.
Okay.
But with
That's on my page.
Monday.com, my team likes everything we're working on.
Now there's a commercial, Pastor Webb, that's playing.
Okay, yes, ma'am. I'm just, you all really gonna have to just,
Okay, it's okay, we're all here. You take your time. This is the new age, so we have to get used to this new technology.
right. Okay. Okay.
See, now I'm watching from my YouTube.
Okay, so can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am, I can.
Oh, boy, finally.
You
Finally.
good?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
We don't have the feedback. Finally.
okay, good.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Yes, ma'am. We don't have the feedback.
Oh,
Well, welcome everyone. We are so sorry for the delay. We have been diligently working, trying to come up. And we're finally here. We're finally here.
It's just a little bit behind.
So today is Friday, March the 20th, 2020, and we have today a very distinguished guest. She is a sweetheart. I'm going to describe her personally before I tell you about her professionally. But she is a sweetheart. She is my bestie. I can call her, and when she's done all of the myriad of duties that she has in her professional capacity, she will call me, she will email me. She is just a wonderful, wonderful human being. And I am the better because of her entering my life. She is the incomparable. We like to affectionately call her Dr. Gigi. I'm going to later pronounce her name because I always botch it up. I could say the first one, Dr. Jahan El Bayumi, but I don't put the accent on it like I should. But welcome, Dr. Gigi, my love. We are so grateful you're with us tonight.
It is my pleasure, Pastor Webb, and I can say all those wonderful things about you and more. It is my pleasure and honor to be here with you this evening and to be here with your congregation, the wonderful Temple Praise that is led by Bishop Staples. You have welcomed me into your home, and I so appreciate you. I'm just going to give you a little bit about what I do so that you can know what the source of information that you're hearing from. I'm a professor of medicine at the George Washington University Medical Center, and I am a general internist, and that means that I take care of adults from 16 to 105. I'm the person that if you have abdominal pain or the flu, or you have diabetes or high blood pressure, I'm the one that cares for you. But I'm also the founding director of the Rodham Institute. And that's how I met Pastor Webb. The Rodham Institute is dedicated to improving everybody's health in the city of Washington, D.C. And mostly we focus on wards 7 and 8 because we want everybody in our wonderful city to be as healthy and realize their full potential. So it is my pleasure and honor to be with you this evening.
Yes, ma'am. And it is our esteemed pleasure to have you tonight. Now, I was going to say a little bit about you professionally because time will not permit us to speak of all of your professional accomplishments and achievements and how intelligent you are.
I don't need all that, Pastor Webb. I really don't. I
you
want to
do,
get to talking and answering everybody's questions because
Yes,
I
ma'am.
know there is so much misinformation out there. There is so much fear, and there is a need. We can do that another time when everybody is better.
Well, yeah, it's just a brief little synopsis of who you are. If you would indulge me for one moment.
Yes, ma'am.
That I wanted them to know, though, that you have been practicing medicine for decades, and you interned and completed your internship there at George Washington University Hospital, where you were also a professor of medicine. So you are invested in the community. You didn't just come to the school and receive an education, but you are invested in the community, and you continue that wise in being the founding director of the Rodham Institute. And so in light of that, we felt it would be great to invite you because, of course, I participate in the Rodham Institute summits annually, and I know how vested you are in mitigating and trying to diminish social determinants of health and how you health disparity. You are a champion in that area. And so I felt it was important to share with listeners and talk with you. And you said, especially in Ward 7 and 8, your emphasis with the Rodham Institute to speak to us about COVID-19.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and in the church world, of course, there is a lot of panic, even in the church world, as much as we know God, because we're human, right? And
Absolutely.
so tonight, Dr. Gigi, want to start out with, tell us exactly what is a virus? How do we obtain viruses? What is a virus?
So a virus is an organism that we can't see. It requires a special type of microscope, but it is an organism that causes illness. So the most common viruses are the ones that cause the common cold or the flu. That's different than a bacteria, which causes illnesses like strep or pneumonia, but it's the same idea. And it can be transmitted from person to person, depending on what the virus is. The way that it's transmitted is different. So I'm of the age where I was on the front lines in the AIDS epidemic. And so that virus is transmitted through blood, through sex, through IV drug use. But this virus, as far as we know, because we don't know a whole lot yet, is transmitted when somebody coughs and we breathe in that air. It actually lives on the surfaces of things like tables and chairs. And so if we touch that and then touch our face and touch our eyes, whereas the HIV virus that causes AIDS, you can't get it that way.
Okay. So can it live on your clothes as well?
It can actually, and we're finding that it can live on your clothes for days and maybe even longer. So for example, because I work in the clinic and the hospital, when I get home, I have different outer covering that I use, a jacket that I actually just leave in the car. I don't even bring it into the home. And then I try to change as soon as possible to clothes that, I've not worn in the hospital. So I've been washing quite a bit and cleaning quite a bit.
Okay, so we should be washing. Is that, Dr. Gigi, everything we wear, or only when we're in an environment where we could potentially be exposed? Which could
Only
be
in an
everywhere, right?
Yeah, well, only an environment where you can be exposed, so that if you're staying home and nobody around you has it, then no. But if somebody comes up and, touches you or hugs you, which they shouldn't be anyway, then maybe. I don't want to panic everybody, because, for example, one of my nieces, I was using my elbows, my sister actually, I was using my elbow to press the elevator button, and she's like, "You're not supposed to do that." I said, "Well, but my elbow is very unlikely for me to come into contact with my face or my eyes. So, it's contagious, but at the same time, there are other things which are much more contagious that I'd like to focus on, and that's being close to each other. That's why we're doing this whole webinar on YouTube, because it's better if we stay apart, and even if we're together, to sit 6 feet apart. And it's hard because, Pastor Webb, I'm a hugger and I'm a kisser.
Yeah.
And, we are social animals, right? And we basically develop this way so that when I'm just talking to you, the chemicals that bathe my brain, the feel-good chemicals that are the dopamine, actually go up. So you can imagine not being able to hug or touch. That is that is a source of healing. It's a source of comfort. And so to not be able to do that is difficult.
Yes. So what would that do, Dr. Gigi, for individuals who are challenged with mental health disorders? And what does it do? Does it exacerbate or increase chances of people becoming depressed?
Well, I mean, I think first of all, let's just talk about what the baseline is in Washington, D.C. When we first started out all those years ago, it's been 7 years, we actually had one of the community health workers that lives in Ward 8, and she did an environmental scan and it interviewed people who live in Ward 7 and 8 to see what their number one health priority was. And it was mental health. So that's as a baseline, right? And so I'll give you an example of how this whole pandemic is making things worse. So I had a young lady, she's a medical assistant that works right along with us in the clinic. And her mother had died just a few, days ago. And she was at work because, a lot of staff can't take a whole lot of time off, right? And so because she's got to be at work because that's her paycheck, she's dependent on that. And she was in a bad state. I had seen her, and didn't know when the funeral was going to be, because, funerals have been delayed or they're reducing the number of people that are able to attend them. And she called me yesterday in a panic. She was at a hospital and she was convinced that she had the virus. She didn't have any symptoms. She didn't have fever. She didn't have cough. She didn't have shortness of breath. And she had already checked into the emergency department. They said she didn't have a fever and her oxygen content, when they measured it, was fine. So it turned out that she was having a panic attack. She was having a panic attack. And so fear, isolation, she lives by herself. She's grieving. She's missing her mother, who died of cancer. And so people who already have anxiety issues or depression or bipolar or schizophrenia or just life. I mean, it's been hard for folks for a long time. I mean, this is just the cherry on top, this is just the thing that kind of pushes people kind of over the edge. So, but having said all that, there has been a lot of grace, a lot of kindness, a lot of reaching out. Your good church and your congregation are doing a lot. I would suggest, though, that when people talk to each other, to try as much as possible to do FaceTime, because the majority of our communication is nonverbal. So to see your face, Pastor Webb, and see your smile and see your, nonverbals is a lot better than just listening to you on the phone.
Yes. So can you tell us, Dr. Gigi, because our topic is facts or fiction, and you're giving us a lot of facts. I want to address one of is it fact or fiction, about coronavirus being manufactured in a lab and released amongst the population. Can you address that?
Well, I think it's important to put a historical context, right? Yeah. Black people, people of color, people in the rest of the world know that there has been bioterrorism that has been practiced by our own government, right? Yes. For example, when the white man came to the United States, they actually deliberately infected the blankets that they were giving to Native Americans with smallpox. Wow. And because Native Americans didn't have any immunity, many of them died. We also know about the example of the Tuskegee Institute. Absolutely. And how, people have been used for experimentation, even when there was a cure, right? They just wanted to see what syphilis would how people who just were untreated, what the syphilis would do. Yes. We also know that in Johns Hopkins, Henrietta Lacks, who had her cells used for cancer research. So it is understandable why people have these ideas. Yes. The coronavirus is a virus that's been circulating. Many of the viruses, not this particular strain, but many coronaviruses we catch colds from every season. But this one jumped from an animal to a human being. So it jumped from a bat to a human. So other viruses have done that. So there is something called MERS, which jumped from a camel to a human. There is SARS, which jumped from a bird to a human. And the reason I would say that it's not manufactured, usually when, as I mentioned, the smallpox epidemic, it usually is targeted against a group of people. This is an equal opportunity virus. So that's, why I would say it's not, it's not manufactured. And the truth of the matter is we had a physician, a researcher at GW who had been working for years on a vaccine. And then the federal government under this administration cut off the funding. So we've known about it. Yeah. So I understand. And actually, I had an Egyptian patient. She's 80 years old. And I was talking to her on the phone. And, Egyptians, we have conspiracy theories, but a lot of the conspiracies are true, right? We know this to be true.
Right.
And so she was saying, the Chinese, they're the ones that caused it. And we should sue the Chinese government. But that's, I don't believe in that. Maybe for other things, but not in this particular instance.
So the fact is that this one came from a bat, must have bit someone and they didn't realize they had it. And so that's how they transmitted it.
That's right. That's right.
Okay. So it's airborne, it's more airborne. So
Yes,
can we
ma'am.
get this walking out in the street, airborne transmission in the air?
No, no, it's not. So one of the things that I do in my home is I always air out my place. When you're going outside, unless you're walking right against somebody or they sneeze in your face, you are not going to get it. So no, being outside, which I don't know how much longer, we're going to be able to do because, in New York, they've stopped that. But for the time being, as long as we are walking far apart, really being outside and being in nature and now it's so beautiful with all the trees that are blooming and being in the sunshine is a good thing.
Yes. So that's not a fact that you can just get it walking outside and breathing in the air.
No.
When you're in front of someone. And could you explain, Dr. Gigi, with putting your hands in your face and the transmission, is that because we have more portals of entry with our nose and our eyes and all of that?
That's exactly right, Pastor Webb. You sure you didn't go to medical school?
I wanted to. You did that for me.
Well, can I say something?
Mhm.
My grandmother, God rest her soul, only got to the 6th grade, but in our family, she was a real healer. So you certainly don't need to have initials after your name or be a doctor or a nurse or whatever to know and understand what good health is.
Yes, yes. So now facts or fiction. We have not found, or they have not actually gotten a vaccine yet. We are in the active stages of researching. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. That's correct. And so my colleague, who's now down in Texas, had gotten a head start. So hopefully he is got some funding to really put those vaccines on the fast track. Now, the balance is this, for those of us at a certain age, we remember when there was the swine flu vaccine back under Nixon, and people actually died from that. So in all of this, in a rush to find either a vaccine or a treatment, we don't want to get people sick. So we have to be smart. We got to speed it up, but we don't want to cause harm at the same time.
Right. Now, what is the general timeline, Dr. Gigi, to get vaccines approved?
Oh, that can be years, but in a circumstance like this, like for example, they're looking at an HIV vaccine, and you have to understand viruses, making vaccines for viruses as opposed to the vaccines that they give little kids, against mumps and measles and rubella. Viruses are very special and tricky because they change all the time. So, and they can sneak in and hide in various cells. So it can be years, but I am optimistic because, as I say, there are good things that are happening in this tragic time, but people are working together. You've got researchers from all over the world that
Yeah.
are sharing information, because this is not a competition, right? This is all of us as human beings. So I'm optimistic. I don't know what the time frame is, but I do know that people are working very, very hard on this.
Yes, because all of humanity, through the CDC, through WHO, we're all collaborating to come together to try to slow down the spread. Dr. Gigi, fact or fiction? With the coronavirus, has it always been, or is it just this strain that spread so rapidly?
It's this strain that has spread so rapidly. This strain just jumped from a bat to a human being. So it has not been in human beings. And that's why so many people are dying, because, you know, if we had it in the system or amongst us, if it was circulating before, some people would have been immune. It wouldn't be this devastating. So it's just like with the Native Americans who had never seen smallpox, and then they got exposed. That was a virus too. And then they died in massive numbers because they had no immunity.
Okay, so is it fact or fiction, Dr. Gigi, that you can be asymptomatic before you actually are tested positive for it?
So that's right. Actually, the good news part of the story is that 90% of people are actually don't have any significant symptoms. They may have, you know, they may not have any symptoms at all, especially young people. And that's why, you know, they're kind of taking it like, oh, it's not a big deal, but they are right. You know, kids always think that they're invincible and they can do whatever they want, but actually they can be the ones that spread it to their loved ones, their families, their friends, their communities. So it is, we don't have a test right now to say if you've had it before, if you had immunity. So people who may have had it, like these young people who may have not had any symptoms, we can't really tell. And because there's a shortage of tests, right? We can't test everybody, right? I mean, that would be ideal to know who's a carrier and who should just stay away or whatever, but we don't have that. And that's why it's so important that if we love each other, and if we are truly children of God, no matter what our God is, that we protect each other, because we've always known, you and I, Pastor Webb, have spoken about this, we have always been interconnected.
Yes.
Maybe some people are just discovering it now, but you know, we've always known it.
Yes. So when you say young people, what age demographic are we speaking of? The 18 to 25 group?
No, probably older than that. Where you really see people getting very, very sick and dying are people when they hit their 50s, even 60. The 80% of the deaths have been an 80-year-old and over. But the people who are young that have died are people who may have diabetes or may have kidney disease or even high blood pressure. And we know that in Ward 7 and 8, those are very, very common. So people tend to think of these people that are dying as old and, oh, they're already sick. Plus, even if you don't die, you can be disabled. You can have, you know, your lungs where the rest of your life you'll have to be on oxygen.
Oh my.
So, you know, we're talking about death, but people forget about disability. And I will tell you that a lot of young people have medical conditions that require them to be on steroids, for example. You got children with asthma.
Yes.
You have people with sickle cell disease.
Yes.
You have people, you know, as I mentioned, the diabetes. We've got, sadly, kids who have cancer. So this idea that, oh, I'm young and, you know, I'm invincible. But, you know, it's our job as the people who are the older and the wiser to educate our young people. You know, that's how I was raised. If if you saw a younger person do anything wrong, you know, I don't care who you were, you corrected them. And that's old school. And we got to go back to these old school values.
I so agree, Dr. Gigi. I so agree. I am a huge proponent of that we older ones should teach the younger. So it is fictitious to believe that because you're younger, you cannot contract it. No one is invincible. You know, I put the other day a post that it has crossed all barriers, socioeconomic, generational, political, it doesn't matter, gender, it has crossed all barriers. So that is fictional, that, you know, because you're younger, you are okay. And so when you, is this fact or fiction, Dr. Gigi, that gloves help to transmit it? We should wear the gloves, we shouldn't wear the gloves, the mask, when we're just going around into the grocery store or out shopping? What is it? What is fact and what is fiction?
Okay, so remember that we don't have a lot of good information, right? We were all learning.
Right.
But it turns out that if you don't have any symptoms and you haven't been exposed to anybody that has symptoms and you put on a mask, it actually increases the chances that you will get it. Because a mask, you always have to adjust it, you're touching your face. So the CDC has said for people who don't have any illnesses themselves, now mind you, it's people who are otherwise healthy and who don't have symptoms, have not been around anybody else, a mask actually can do more harm than good.
Wow.
Yes. Now, because there's a shortage of masks, I want to share with you some alternatives to masks. So a scarf, especially made out of cotton, and you double it, that can work actually as effectively as a mask, and you don't tend to fiddle with it as much. But that's, again, for people who are not, they're for people who are sick, have symptoms, or are at risk for getting sick. In terms of the gloves, well, you know, the gloves, let's say you go shopping and you're, you know, holding on to the shopping cart and you touch everything. As soon as you get home, you put those gloves in the washing machine and you wash them, right? And then you also have to make sure that you rinse your vegetables and fruits with soap and water. Even the cans, you know, anything that has been touched has to be washed. So, you know, if you think about it, you know, we, as I said, we're social beings and we touch a lot. I mean, if I were to think about the things that I touch on a, you know, on a minute by minute basis, it's a lot. And if you've seen some of the people on TV who said, don't touch, and then they'll go and shake somebody's hand because these are automatic behaviors.
Yes.
But yes, when you're pumping gas, wear gloves. You know, there are things that we don't think about. Doorknobs and elevator buttons, you know, they've got, a lot of people touch that, right? And that's true, by the way, in the flu season. So these things are just common sense to be carried out in general.
So that's interesting. You said that mask, you know, would even make you more susceptible. So we shouldn't be wearing the mask unless, we should only wear the mask when we're showing signs of COVID-19. So what kind of signs or symptoms would that be, Dr. Gigi?
So so we're learning about a lot of different symptoms. I mean, the signs and symptoms that are more likely to have people end up in the hospital are fever, shortness of breath, and cough. But we also know that people can have milder symptoms of diarrhea or nausea. So those, and body aches. It can feel like a bad version of the flu. Okay. And so I just wanted to add something, Pastor Webb. It's not just for the people who have sort of the symptoms. It's also for people who have chronic disease, who really cannot afford to get sick. They have to protect themselves. And so, for example, if somebody just had chemotherapy, or, you know, I've seen a lot of older folks, I live in an apartment building, wearing masks and gloves. I don't think that would be too much.
Okay, because they're protecting themselves, older individuals, people who have compromised immune systems with cancer, and people, you said, like even people on dialysis,
Oh,
those
yes.
issues, we know they're in Ward 7 and 8, as you said,
Yes.
in the end-stage renal disease, and they're getting dialysis, and people
Well,
of that nature.
there is that expression, when America sneezes, Black people get the flu, right? Everything is augmented because of all of those social determinants of health that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Poverty, lack of access to good food, housing, more mental health issues because of dealing with gun violence, right?
Yeah.
All of those sorts of things. And then you just add this, and
It can be pretty overwhelming.
it can be pretty overwhelming. Mhm.
Yeah. So fact or fiction, does it live longer on metal or plastic? Because we've seen something that says that plastic holds it longer. Like when you took the plastic basket.
I'm not sure about that, but it would make sense to me that plastic, because of the way that plastic is.
Mhm.
But remember, it's plastic, it's metal, it's clothing. So, you gotta scrub down those surfaces. And if I could just add, because a lot of stores are out of all those sanitizers,
Mhm.
but we learned through our medical information that Windex works just as well.
Windex.
Windex, and I've seen
Wow.
Windex in the stores because I don't think people have caught on to that yet.
Uh-oh,
But
you gonna start,
Windex,
you gonna
well,
start something, Dr. Gigi.
for the
The
for the
listeners go
people,
running by them some Windex.
the good people of Ward 7 and 8, you gotta get the
Yeah,
jump on these things. So that's
yeah,
fine. But
yeah.
Windex works.
Windex. Wow.
You okay? I think I lost you. I'm not sure if you can hear me. Mm. Okay, well, I understand that you can hear me so that I can continue to talk to you. Um, so, how can you prevent yourself from getting sick? First of all, sleep. Sleep is such an important defense against getting sick. And a lot of people don't sleep well because they may stay up late, they may be watching TV, they may have problems just falling asleep, period. So you should always try to check with your doctor or nurse practitioner about whether you can take melatonin, but that's a safe and effective treatment to help you sleep. Also, trying not to watch the news, trying to, watch maybe a funny movie or pray. Prayer or meditation that can be really calming, very soothing. There are apps. One of them is Calm. It's free. You can download it on your phone, and it really has bedtime stories. It's got, relaxation tapes. It's got waterfalls and just the ocean. I really like it, and I tell a lot of my patients in normal times to use those apps. So sleep is really a cornerstone of good health, period. We know that when people don't sleep, everything gets worse, everything from your blood pressure to your mood. And actually, it's even a risk factor for developing dementia. So the second thing is food. I know it can be a challenge to get fruits and vegetables in the East End, but there are also frozen fruits and vegetables that are more affordable. I know that Capital Area Food Bank and other places, and we've shared the list that our Rodham Institute staff has put together for food resources. And so eating what I call a lot of color. So, the green vegetables, the yellow vegetables, fruits of all colors are really, really healthy. Washing your hands